How would you like to make your events profitable? And today we have Andrew with us. We have experience in all kinds of events, all his life, working in that sector. And I have big question, Andrew, that everyone wants to hear from you. What are the 5 steps that you recommend to entrepreneurs in order to make their events profitable?
Welcome to Entrepreneurs Are Leaders podcast with Harry Sardinas. Interviews with world's most influential entrepreneurs that share tips about how to grow your business exponentially. Charismatic speaking, leadership, branding, marketing strategies designed to help you monetize your knowledge, find true happiness, and manifest your goals and dreams.
This is great. So I've been privileged to spend all my life in and around events, whether that's producing them, whether that's helping them, whether that's selling them, getting sponsors for them. Events have been everything I've gravitated towards in life. And so what an honor it is for me to be sitting here across the screen from you today, Harry. It was at an event that we met each other. And
my pleasure. I'm so happy to have you.
So thank you so much for this opportunity. I would love to share 5 steps to making sure your event is profitable. You want me to get right into it? Let's get right into it.
Step 1.
I love talking about this because this is my life every day, right? And every day I get to talk to many events all over the world and helping their anatomy. And so step 1 is defining the anatomy of the event. So when I think of anatomy, think of like the blueprint or the architecture of the event. And when we talk about profitability, I think of in 2 different ways. One is monetarily, right? So how is your event profitable for you as the event creator so that at the end of it, you're doing an event again the following year, right? It has to be profitable financially. But every event typically is happening for a reason other than making money, right? And so it is defining the anatomy of what is that profitability that is not money, okay? And that is a very important process in defining what profitability is. So in step 1, in the anatomy, defining profitability. Also, define your marketing cycle. What's the timeline that you are going to have to make sure to communicate this event profitably? And third, making sure that in the definition of profitability, you have defined the success at the end of the day, right? So we think of the money aspect of success. We think of the actual aspect of what communication you're trying to get from the person that's attending your event. But what do they get out of the event? Right? They're giving you money to come to an event. What are they getting out of it? So the anatomy of what you're having and defining the actual group and target of people. Step 1, anatomy of your event. Number 1. Number 2 is an aggressive pre-sale. So your pre-sale is the utmost importance. In fact, when you think through your marketing timeline and the sales cycle of the event, I like to see 1/3 of the budget going into the pre-sale. So now break down your event into a couple different categories, and you're going to see I'm going to do this for you. So in your pre-sale, that's your first category. Think of every category as a campaign. I like to use the communication style in each campaign as this. Tell them what you're going to tell them, and tell them what you told them. Okay? Rinse and repeat that every time you do a campaign. So number 1 on your pre-sale, you'll always see we let everybody know it's coming, right? So you got to hype it. You got to let everybody know what's about to happen. Your pre-sale is the utmost important, meaning I like to see about 1/3 of your sales happening during your pre-sale process. Okay. So when you think about your marketing cycle, now this is largely determined though on, is this an existing event, meaning it's already happened before, or is this a brand new event? Right? A lot more resources have to go into a brand new event to hit 1/3 of your sales happening by a pre-sale, but it is possible. Okay. So an aggressive pre-sale, 1/3 of your budget going into this, and an aggressive hype campaign leading up to your pre-sale. Now, oftentimes in your pre-sale, I like to stop sales when the pre-sale is done. Cut it off. People can't get it anymore. These are your early adopters, and they need to feel rewarded. They need to feel like they are the pinnacle of your trust, your investment. They need to feel ownership over your event, okay? So step 2 is an aggressive pre-sale. Step 3 in this cycle, making sure your event's profitable, I like to call the launch. So I'd separate your pre-sale from your launch, okay? And I put about 1/6 of your marketing budget into your launch. Now, depending on the time of your sales cycle of your event, again, I go back into a campaign style. So now for the launch, I recycle that concept. Tell them what you're going to tell them, right? Hype the launch, tell them, and then reward them after the launch with tell them what you just told them. Okay. So we're going to go through that cycle again, and you're going to officially launch to the public. Again, it's usually a better price, but not the price of the pre-sale. Okay. So you stagger your pricing, you give them a better price at the launch. There again, the next batch of your early adopters. Once your pre-sale and your launch are done, I like to see 50% of your overall sales secured. Okay. This happens. Now I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you right now, Harry, but I like to see this happen in the first third of your actual sales cycle. So the pre-sale and the launch happen during the first third of your overall cycle of your sales. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay.
Absolutely. Yes.
Excellent. Excellent. So launch is step 3. Step 4, and this is the part that is critical for long-term success. Step 4 is rewarding all those people who participated in either your pre-sale or your launch. So you think about it, how do you reward them, right? You're bringing them along this story with you of this event. It's just like planning a vacation. What's the best part of the vacation? It's the anticipation of going somewhere. Typically, when you get on vacation, it's a bunch of stress, right? Your plane flights are delayed, your whatever. But you go through all that because you had so much anticipation to go. You now want to take this 50% of people who have adopted into your event, and you want to spend the next third of your cycle in rewarding them, whether that's little giveaways you're doing, little contests you're doing, surveys on what to do here, snippets on backstage access or insight into a speaker who's going to be there, whatever it is. Okay. And we could go into a whole hour-long discussion on how to reward those people who early adopted. You want to reward your early adopters. And that's another 1/6 of your budget. All right. Then and think of it in a third, a third, a third. So a third is the pre-sale launch. The next third of your timeline is really focused on rewarding those people. The last third of your timeline is also where the last third of your budget goes. And that is the crescendo, right? This is where you're dumping a lot of money into the what I call general awareness. All right. I don't like to spend money on billboards or money on radio or money on TV or money on PR, whatever it is, on the first 2 stages here. I like to save that to the end. And this is where you're crescendoing. But here's the beauty of it. If you've done the first 2 steps right, the investment you make, and I see this happen all the time. People think they need to make such an investment into big global advertising on things. But if you lack the army of people who are willing to talk about it, who are excited to talk about it, it always falls short. Your financial investment into the big, just speak it, and people are going to show up. That's actually not true. Okay. And it's a never ending cycle of trying to have to make more noise. You want that noise to actually have some teeth behind it. In order to have teeth behind it, it has to have people who are willing to vouch for it, right? So if we've created that, now your last third, that's your big push, your crescendo, whether you need to add flash sales or whatever techniques on that last, the step 5 and your big spend, I call the crescendo. And this is where you throw whatever allocation of budget you have into general awareness marketing, right? It creates that third-party reference feel. It creates that idea that, oh, this is a legitimate thing. Everybody's going to this, right? You create that. And again, cycle back to a campaign style where you tell them what you're going to tell them and you tell them what you told them. Rinse and repeat that communication method every time you go through one of these, the life cycles of what I'm talking about, the pre-sale launch, the reward system for those early adopters, or the crescendo at the end. And I have an appendix to step 5, okay? Because you have to do the event. If you've done this right, you're going to have capacity to actually spend the needed time to make this the best event possible. You have to. And when you do it, always, so this is step 5, Appendix A, always surprise people at your event. Give them something they were not expecting. This is a secret to long-term success for every one of your events. Every one of your events should have some type of Easter egg, some type of fun little thing that they discover that's a value add they were not expecting. In events I've had before, I've literally skydived a main stage act to start his set skydiving over the crowd, right? No one knew that was going to happen. Everybody was completely shocked. But what did it do? It made sure that anytime somebody came to one of my events, they knew there was something they were going to get that they weren't expecting that was good, right? So there you go. Those are my 5 steps for having a profitable event.
And then, Andrew, talking about the budget of the event, right?
Yes.
Well, you're talking about the budget, but how much money people depends on the events they
Yes.
should allocate, okay, in order to make the event profitable. How much the tickets should be, like, for example, can you give us a little
Yes.
bit price and a budget
Yes,
allocated? Yes, that would be fantastic. So we can have an idea, because sometimes people want to do an event, and sometimes the numbers I seen event that people have spent were £250,000. And,
Yes.
And still very few people show up. And others when the event is way less and the event is back. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so
What people
those,
should be looking at in terms of the
Yeah.
budget, and if the budget that they have, maybe when this pre-sale is done, I don't know, maybe they break even. So what is the break even point?
well, again, so this question is much better. So one is going back to step 1. What is the anatomy of the event, right? Understanding the anatomy. So I deal with this on a daily basis talking to events. Okay. Let's break it down into 2 categories. Has this event happened before? If the event has happened before, then we have more data to go off of that, right? And if we know where they were at in their pre-sale prior, or their first 2, their step 1, step 2, and step 3, the pre-sale and the launch, okay? And we can understand how much of that we've captured, right? So if I come in and help an event with my software price slide, our first goal is to raise the percentage of early adopters. That way we have more information, more data, okay? So again, going back to your question, I determine that based off a decision tree. That decision tree, has this event happened before? Yes. If it has, then we can understand a bit of those budgets of where we're going to spend the money. Most of the time in events, we tend to think they're always going to work out well. Right? We just always do. This is why a pre-sale and a launch are so important, right? It helps base reality for you to know how to spend the rest of your money. So, right, if you've spent about roughly a little over 1/3 of your money, you still have time to make adjustments, okay? And remember, I also like to start selling an event without telling them everything I'm going to build for it, right? Because typically your event costs, you have flexibility leading up to the event to add or take away on event costs. Event costs happen in 2 different spots. 1, the marketing, so people come, but 2, the actual body of what it costs to put on the event. Those 2 separate budget items, right? So if you're thinking about now a first-time event, you're going to have to take some guesses, okay? Typically go into that, you need to go into that with some capital, right? You have to have some amount of money you're working with, okay? There's creative ways, but if you take like a 20-80 and say, I'm going to start with 20% of my budget is going to marketing, 80% is going to actually doing the event, okay? So think about it as just a good rule of thumb. I'm going to split it up 20-80, all right? You test that and you pre-sale and launch and see where you land, okay? Did this budget make sense? Did I spend 20 and did I get a potential, right, to now build my event off of. It's also another reason why always having an event philosophy that focuses on the pre-sale and the launch as powerful and healthy, it mitigates mistakes that are going to be made later down the road because you've already brought cash flow to the forefront of your event. That is the number one insurance policy you can take out on your event is a healthy pre-sale and launch, no matter what your event is. Okay, that needs to be looked at as the pinnacle of success is having a healthy pre-sale launch. Because what happens if you don't is you're going to dump a ton of money into emergency marketing to try to fill that event, and 9 times out of 10 that's going to fall flat. Okay, it just usually does. So I would say to answer your question specifically, it's so different depending on what that anatomy of the event is. But that's why focus your attention on the pre-sale, focus it on the launch, see where you land, and make adjustments in your budgeting, make adjustments in your spending.
And then, in your opinion, what are the most profitable events? There are a lot of type of music concert, events. What sectors are the profitable, meaning that there is profit?
Right.
In your opinion.
So if I understood your question right, what am I seeing as the most profitable sectors for events right now? Is that what you're asking? Okay. In the event space, things that are gonna always go well are things people, so think of this as a human nature standpoint. Number one way to answer that question is completely destroy your concept of your competition. Okay. One of the biggest mistakes people make is to think their competition is another event. That's not true. Okay. That maybe is a competitor, but is not the main competitor. The main competitor against people coming to your event is just human behavior. Okay. I could have the best music artist in the world, but if a wedding is going on that same date, I can't sell that ticket to that person. Okay. So the best events correlate with human behavior that matches the demographic of who's coming to that event. So I'm going to resist answering your question in a very pragmatic way. So the pragmatic way would say, oh, hey, tours for musicians that have X, Y, and Z, those are the best ones that going out there right now. Is that a true statement? Probably. Well, yeah, they're a touring act that sets their tour and you buy the package. They're probably the safest to promote that, right? They're the safest. Are they going to be the most profitable for you? Well, no, not necessarily, because you don't own as much of that event, right? You have to split up profits for it. So it's safer. All right. So it's much more nuanced. So for example, a Christmas event that people are already wanting to do things during Christmas time typically are always going to be successful because the human behavior of people during Christmas time are to do Christmas activities, right? So think of it from a human behavior standpoint. So now let's say an example of if I'm doing an event for my company and I want to get people that are my target audience that my company's trying to attract to this event. Well, I need to match it with the human behavior that they want to see or they want to come out of this event. So really, the most successful or profitable events are finding where the intersection of the human behavior of whoever you're trying to impact is matching when, where matches up together, right? So I can be throwing the event that matches behaviorally, or I'm sorry, not behaviorally. I can do an event that matches the goals of the demographic I'm trying to reach, but it doesn't match the behavior, right? It's at this wrong time or it's in the wrong location. Well, it's not going to work, right? Because you haven't adapted to who your client's behavior is. So find the behavior of your client and run parallel with it.
Very impressive, the answer, yeah. Doing the right
Thank you.
timeline, the right timeline, yes.
Yes, yes. You have to play chess, not checkers here. You have to play chess. As an event director, you have to think ahead and connect it with human behavior. And that's, I mean, look at the conference we were at. A year ago, if somebody would have gotten up and pitched an AI company, everybody would, ooh, and it's an AI company. Let's put money into it. Now, a year later, there's a million AI companies, right? What will never go away is human behavior. Human behavior, it's the baseline for everything, right? And in events, what you're doing is you're constantly connecting with something somebody's paying you for because they want to spend their time there. So you have to factor that in. You have to understand who they are and what they're doing behaviorally.
And now let's talk about something that we are very passionate about, and we Fortune Trends entrepreneur, is that, in my opinion, the fastest way that you have to grow a business is actually doing events. There is
Experience.
There is no other way in this planet, in my opinion, that you can scale a company.
No, there's no way.
To our company, speakers and leaders, take your business from a local to global brand from the stage. Is if you are an entrepreneur, you want to scale up your business. Events is one of the most fastest way that you can expand your business. We did it, I was saying, with the speakers. And we are talking
yeah.
from a company an event company that was in London. All of a sudden, we created in London, and if you see the first workshop is only 23 people, and I remember our first tickets, it was like $97. That was the first time that this would happen. And after what we had done by Mexico, in the United States, with speakers and leaders. So the whole local brand have become global. And
it's amazing.
From all over the world. It's feel like an artist. It's actually if we decision, we arrive to Singapore. We team up with people there, and they don't even need to carry our suitcases. They are so amazing that they just say, okay, I have to just go talk, come back to your hotel, we take you back, and they're gone out of the collaboration. So what is your opinion, and why do you think that the entrepreneur should consider doing events in order to expand and then from a local to a global?
Yeah, well, my background when I went to school, long time ago now, I feel so old, was actually ancient Near East studies. So ancient Near East studies was a passion of mine. And I spent a decent amount of time out east, and especially in the Turkey, Israel, and Greece area. One thing that studying history is humans really don't change that much, and we're not very different than how we have always been. So ancient literature always depicts events as symbolic benchmarks in a person's normal rhythm. So think of a rhythm as a 1-year time frame. So let's just take a year of my life. I, as a human, crave community and experiences with other humans. Okay, that's paramount to our existence. So now to answer your question, when you combine that with entrepreneurship, and why do events work to grow your company? It's because you're actually tapping into a primal instinct of being human. That is to have connectivity and community, right? And to feel like you're a part of something bigger and to actually experience something. So it's really as simple as that. All you've tapped into is really who we're made to be as humans, right? There's even faiths that a tenth of their money a year was set aside for a week-long party. They'd pool a tenth of their money they'd make every year as a celebration tithe to go throw the largest party possible to gather together for the sake of gathering. Okay. It is in our DNA to gather together in person, if possible, and experience with each. So when you tap into that as an entrepreneur, your business is going to grow because you're actually feeding something in each person that you're inviting to your event that they need anyway. It's a need.
Money, for example, the most important successful moments of your life happen at events. If you're gonna get married, A wedding is an
It is.
event. Actually, it's a
100%.
gathering. I don't know, your graduation is an event,
Yes.
right? The speaker
Yes.
there. I don't know if you go to church and
Yes, an event.
It's an event. If the president of the United States win the elections,
Why did Trump do so good? He turned his entire campaign into an event. Multiple events.
This I agree with you.
And they were fun. They were exciting. Everybody wanted to be there.
There was
Human nature.
way. There was people bringing comedians that actually one comedian going to give it trouble because say something and but he was bringing comedians. He was bringing so the event was good.
Yes.
And look what happened and look the result. And people thought that it's gonna be tight. That the result, that they went together. And I'm on the space of the event same like you. Andrew, what people didn't know is that Donald Trump had thousands more events than the other one. Thousands, because he's been doing it for 4 years.
Wow.
So the other candidates, even that show up, are very strong, and you have been done for Oprah, you have been done. Something was missing. What it was missing is it doesn't matter how many events you did, 20, 30, 100. Okay, but Donald Trump, he has like thousands of those events. People actually went to those events and talk and have an experience. And when you have, there is no way, I knew, because I'm on the space, even before the election, that there is no way that's going to go closer because you have to do the job. You have to do the job, and it doesn't matter what people can tell you in the social media, what people can tell you in the podcast like this. If you go to an event and you experience that, nothing, in my opinion, can be that. You think? Because it doesn't matter if you see a TV show, you see a news, you see the, but you have been in that event. When you see the speaker, the partner, the music, and what they're gonna do together, and then you have this group of people, everybody cheering for whatever political you eat. This is a second nature. That is you need in order to change that opinion after that person that somehow identified that even for any reason, maybe a friend dragged you there. But they arrived there, they were very, very, they have a lot of fun. They saw the guy, they saw it with their eyes. What do you think, Andrew? And what message do you have for people running political campaigns in the future? There is a certain amount of events, full event, because that's the other thing. What I heard is that he was very good feeling those events. I heard that those events they will back. So but look at the results. So what do you have for people that?
So and I think articulating that, it actually goes back to that first point when you define the anatomy of an event. And when I think of anatomy, you dissect all the different parts, right? And one of those parts is defining profitability. So depending on what type of event it is, depends on what profit looks like, right? And multiple ways to bring revenue into an event. So I'm going to answer this question like this too, because here's another important point that people don't put time and effort into, okay? And this is critical for the success. And I almost brought it up in my 5 points, but it would have been an Appendix B under my 5th point, and I thought I already got away with an Appendix A. At your event, okay, when you have an event, that is your number one place to either sell your event for the next year or activate the crowd into a clear call to action. So when I had a big music festival, okay? I used that music festival. That was the best place I sold tickets for the following year. So I sell tickets a year ahead of time. I sold more tickets at my festival for the next year's event than I did my entire cycle. Okay, that was my precept. Okay. Second is I got more sponsors for my next event at the event than I did for the entire year. Okay, so I was in a 1-year cycle with my festival, right? It was a yearly music festival. I would specifically make it my job to sell tickets and get sponsors at my event. And that was a very high priority in my head on what I was doing. So depending on what your event is, when you're doing your event, remember that is the number one place to make your next event successful. Okay, both in sponsorships or selling tickets or whatever activation that you're trying to activate that crowd to do. Does that make sense?
Yes, and then let's tell me more about it because let's say the actual president of the United States is an event guy. We can
Yes.
say anything about a lot of things about him, but something is true. He's an event guy, which to the point that I heard that he took a piece of the White House to do an event room there. Right?
Yeah, yeah, the whole point.
I think it's a brilliant idea. It's a spectacular idea.
And he got
If
it
you go to
funded.
UK,
Yeah, he got it funded. He got private
Look,
donations.
You know, I've been in the House of Lords in
Yes.
UK speaking. But what is the House of Lords? It's an event room. When you
It's
go
an event
there,
center.
You run events in different type of events in the House of Lords. You can have
Yeah.
the dine for Women's Day and whatever else. I've been participating and seeing those ones. You have entrepreneurs events at the House of Lords. What you in those events.
Yes. Well, go into Mar-Lago. So look at all he's doing with the White House is what he did in Mar-Lago. So all he's
Mar-Lago's
doing
the
with the
same
White
thing,
House
right?
is what he. So we did an event at Mar-Lago, right? So we did an event at Mar-Lago.
So Mar-Lago is
President
also
Trump
an
came.
event place.
Oh yeah,
Have event?
Mar-Lago during
Wow,
their
didn't know
season.
this.
Yeah, from November to May is their season at Mar-Lago. It's basically just an event venue. Okay.
Wow.
So they're probably 3 events a week in Mar-Lago,
Wow.
all season long, right? So they're high-end dinners, they're high-end galas, they're fundraisers, all those types of things. They schedule Mar-Lago all from November to May on events. When I went there, it was amazing how good it was, right? Amazing. And it was so much fun to put on the event there and to help, our company helped put on the event there for a movie premiere that was happening. So they showed the movie premiere there. It went great. To your point, we're using Trump as an example here because it's a brilliant example. Basically, what he did is he turned his Mar-Lago resort into an event venue and made it the premier destination, right? Which has multiple profitability points, right? So, and each one of the profitability measures you can continue to accentuate. Like you can continue to work and grow, okay? So now break that down to a scale that's not top example in the world, right? So you take Trump. Trump is, it's easy to use as like, oh, this is use. Bring it down to your business, okay? When you break it down to your business, depending on where you're at, conceptually what you're trying to do is that means you have a group of people that you're servicing, right? You're trying to bring them together experientially. So think through what's the best experience, matching it with their human behavior so it's successful, giving you an outcome of the desired outcome of your business. That's all that. And when you're thinking about your own personal business, what you're trying to do in your event strategy, but I think every business should have an event strategy, right? Because
absolutely, I agree with you.
Every business should have an event strategy because you're going to keep loyalty that way, and you're going to activate people that way.
And community, like you said. So Andrew,
correct.
Look, let's face it. Okay? Every time that you're on the stage, okay, if you're on the stage, it's because there is an event happening. You're selling something. You're selling
every time.
Or an idea. Okay, you're the president of the United States. You're selling. Or you're running for president, you're selling an idea. Okay, you have your company, you're selling
something.
So every time that you are at the stage, at that event, you're selling something. Okay, now, if you combine this with profitable event, because that's the other thing that I hear about Trump's campaign, is that he's paying way less. Meaning, those events somehow, those kind of profitable or cost very little compared to what it will cost the other events. In the other events, I hear, it's true. Okay, the Oprah Winfrey and all that, but this is that fee is super high.
Yeah, very high.
This is a views of the speakers on the other side. They're very. Also, Michelle Obama was there, or whatever. Those speakers have
Very expensive. Yes.
Which, if you do run to the event, well, it's going to be difficult to be speakers. That
there's an art. There's an art. That's an art. So it's about doing events.
Profitability, yeah, because how can we manage to do thousands of events? There is an element. I don't think I would do it because in this type of space, but you're the expert. You don't have to look at those events.
Yeah.
However, he managed to make them as profitable as possible, maybe with a sponsor, maybe with donations, maybe with something, because otherwise he won't be able to do that many. Because I think from the other team, they did solid, but they also don't have money. They did solid and they spend a huge amount. That's what I hear.
Well,
right?
so
if you're an event, if you master the skill how to do events and you have something to sell, which is an idea, and you master this thing that we're talking about, this skill that we're talking about. Because, for example, my business, I do events promoting my business, and I charge the tickets, and I make a profit on the tickets. So my customer acquisition becomes profitable. From the lead generation business in general.
Yes, I understand.
Profitable for day one. So imagine if you're running a business that you're getting profit on your lead generation. How fast can you scale? And this is also possible. It's something that we do on the daily basis.
Yes.
This is something that we train other entrepreneurs to encourage them to create an event. Because if you're an entrepreneur and you design an expert like you, for example, a proper flow of event, the magic can happen and you can get not free customer acquisition, you can get profitable. And when you go to anybody that says, well, I'm making profit acquiring my client, people are going to look to you like you come from another planet. So
yes.
This is something that we have done. And so remember, this podcast is for entrepreneurs. All our listeners, there are people that want to open a business, they own a business, large businesses. So all kind of entrepreneurs listen to this podcast. All of them want to grow the business, and people that don't have a business, they're listening because they want to start it up. They want to move from corporate to so. You say something I want to stress it important. When you said the intangible value of the without money, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And there is something attached to the event, and no talk about it, which is branding and authority, which is an intangible value. You say very well at the very beginning, and I don't think that so many people actually understood what you mean by that. So can you expand a little bit more about how valuable is because in mind, if you're selling a product and you already perceive authority in the marketplace and you build in your brand, because when you want to sell your business, you don't sell yourself, you want to sell the brand. And if the brand is already out of mouth and people know the brand,
right?
Even when you exit, well, you have a huge brand money, like for free. You're talking about brand awareness. If you have to pay for brand awareness, obviously this is expensive. So a little bit more about that intangible value specific for entrepreneurs that you see in events, in events where entrepreneurs use events to grow.
Yeah. So let me try to this way. This is a real world example that just happened. So my business. So I'm an author right now, and one of my goals for my company is to raise funds. Right. So I need to raise for my company. The event I met you at. I had gone to the previous iteration of that event out in France. So a few months prior to that was out in France. And at that event, I went as somebody selling my company, telling everybody, presenting my pitch deck, right? Going, and right away in France, what I realized is the anatomy of that event wasn't as much a pitch, like a pitch type, even that was there. It was much more of it almost felt like a family of people that did business together. So I changed my strategy. So in Miami, I didn't want to go up on stage and pitch my company. I instead figured out how to become the MC of the night gala. Okay. When I was the MC of the night gala, guess what I did not do? I didn't even tell people that about my company. I actually made all the attention on the nonprofit that we were trying to focus on that night. But what that did by me being the MC is it opened up 5 to 10 times more conversations to actually get what I wanted out of this event. And that was high quality investors that saw me as an authority. Okay. So take that example and now apply that to what you just said. When you create you're creating a place of authority that what your business is offering, the problem it's solving, or the way it's helping is legitimate, right? Is trustworthy, and is something other people want to be a part of. Again, go back to human nature. Why do we want to do something? It's not because we've heard it from a million times on social media. Okay. Now, that's awareness. Awareness is good. But what triggers a response to convert somebody is usually because of some personal connection or something experiential that happened that they're willing to say, this is the most important thing. And let me accentuate that point with this. Over the last 15 years, we have seen an increase in human input by over 900%. With the advent of AI, that's only going to increase compoundly. Okay. So we're going to see multiple thousands of X increase input on the human as we know being human. Okay. That means the noise we are consuming continues to increase at a rate that has never been seen before in history. Okay. This is a fascinating experiment we're all going through right now. That is why events are even more important. Okay. They're not ever going to be less important. They're only going to exponentially be more important because by having a human experience that you get somebody to be with you in person, what that does is it cuts through all that noise. Okay. All that input that's coming in, it cuts through that and focuses somebody to actually consider what you're telling them. So I know I answered that in a little bit of fragmented way. But when you think through why doing your event is so important and what the benefits of that event are, yes, you have to make sure the finances work. You're breaking even or making money on it, which is not only possible, as long as you focus on robust pre-sales and launches, you will financially be successful because you can adjust your budget as it goes. If you're pre-sale and a little lighter than expected, then reduce your budget of your event. Okay, you can control that then. But you're still going to get a great outcome, right? And you're going to be able to do it again because you've protected the finances of it. Think of the money of your event. If it's a first-time event, you're in protection mode. You're protecting that money, right? If it's a second-time event, now you're pressing levers to try to make money on it, okay? So as you stack multiple to that same event, now you're trying to make a bunch of money. Now, there's other nuances in that. Maybe it's a one-off event that you think is going to be so big that you can make a bunch of money at. Great. There's a little bit different strategy, but that's probably that's typically with an event. You have to think about it much more in 3D. You can't think of it linearly. You have to think about it in 3D on the benefits of it. Does that make sense?
100%.
Yep.
And then a question because when we were doing events all over the world and then COVID came. Then we started online events. We actually organized the first motivational speaking contests online
That's incredible.
In COVID time. However, we feel that the online events doesn't get the loyalty and the engagement and the result that actually physical.
Sure.
What is your the online space? Which actually, well, we get a lot of people online events, and it's something positive that you have global reach. However, for example, in the tickets price,
Yeah. Yeah.
You lower I see all, the tickets lower the price consumer. And I think because it doesn't matter how to because we
Sure.
were
Sure.
doing our event very experiential online, still we don't feel that there is this vibes having live event when
Yeah. Yeah.
in our event is already the workshop should finish 11 p.m. They sit in the room dancing, and we tell them go. You have to go. The people are take them out from one door and they come back from the second one, and they don't want to go on. They want so. Uh, what do you think? That's what's the main difference in online, and what people can do to get the online event more profitable, more engaging, which is something that is really challenging compared with live.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would think so that's going to be determined based circumstances of going back to human behavior. So I'll always think of it through the lens of human behavior. So when COVID happened, the best to have was online events. So by default, we're very adaptive creatures. So we're going to adapt to what we can do. Okay. So when in-person events came naturally, you saw those grow again. Okay. What it did tell us, though, is that there is a place where online events can mimic experiences. And obviously, there's many benefits to online events from producing them. The cost is much less. The cost is much less for talent, right? So all those things are true. Um, don't it just it's more a matter of expectations, right? Have realistic expectations. Understand that an online event can never match an in-person event. And one of the kind of the obvious to why. So think of what is the greatest when somebody comes to your event, even if they're paying $5,000 a ticket, what is actually the greatest thing they gave you? Well, it's their time. Okay. So somebody's time is actually the most valuable commodity. All right. Forget their money, forget the car they have, the watch they have, forget any of that. Their time is their utmost, most valuable commodity. Therefore, an in-person event requires more time. They're giving you more to be there. Therefore, it's just like anything. When I invest more into something, I'm putting more into this. I'm going to engage in it more. It's more important to me. So that's just a matter. So your online events, I would say focus on the content. Make sure content is key. So content is matching what that so when you online event, make sure that content that person's receiving is valuable and easy to digest and to use, right? Because it's just what's more important changes between in-person and online events to the consumer. Okay, so that's what's going on psychologically in their mind, right? So you can't control that. Think in an event you can control it. You can't. You have to listen to your clients or your customers. So when you listen to them, if they're going to an online event, they're going for a reason. Identify what those reasons are and make sure you deliver. And then your online events are going to be good. They're going to be profitable because you're delivering what they need to come for. For an event that's in person, now you're adding an experiential layer that is always going to be an advantage over an online event. You can't not have it, right? And so you lean into that layer because you're increase that. So that's the only reason. Don't be afraid to discount the online events. All those types of things. I'm also, here's another thing though. Think of human behavior. It's very tempting for an online event to make it open to everybody. Okay. But why does somebody go to an event? Because when you go to an event, you're special. Okay. You're special. If you go to an online event that anybody can go to and they pay $100 and you could have, a million people could show up for this. Well, then I'm not special anymore. So you got to think of how are they going to be special? How is a person going to that online event is going to feel they're somehow special for attending this? Okay. Always put yourself into their mindset. So, okay, you don't want a gateway. You don't want to limit the online, right? Okay, that's fine. How, though, are they going to be special? What makes them special by still going online to this? You got to ask that question.
Andrew, and last question, if somebody's involved with this conversation and want to organize the event, I want to work with you, how this process work,
Sure.
how they can find you,
Yeah.
share some contact details, and how this process work. How can you help?
Oh, so Mike's slide, what we tapped into was a simple human behavior. Okay. I've mentioned human behavior a lot because I would just study it every year, right? Every year I'm studying my crowd, my fans. Specialty. Our company's specialty is your pre-sale or early adoption. So what we did is we created a pre-sale technology. And now it can be used in any discount, any sale, any activation. However, pre-sale is our specialty. So what we did is in a typical pre-sale has a static price. If you buy by this date, you get said price. It's a discount, right? So it's a motivator. Adopt early, get a better price than everybody else. What we did is we put the control of the discount that person was getting into the hands of the crowd. So we call it crowd pricing. So instead of having a static price that we said, buy now, get it for this in a singular transaction, we turned it into a campaign where people would commit. And we built a technology that as more people committed, the price would keep going lower. And every day during the campaign, we're constantly rewarding everybody. Hey, congratulations, your ticket now is $10 less, keep it going, or now is $100 less, keep it going. The more people they bring in, the more people that commit, the lower the price goes. At the end of the promotion, whatever the crowd got the price down to is what they all paid. So they were all working together to get their deal. What this did, when we did this the first time in my festival, it took our pre-sales from 1,000. I'd have 1,000 people buy every year, no matter what I did, no matter what artists I announced, and it took it to 3,500. So we took a pre-sale, and here's the other secret. My floor price being defined as the lowest price I go, actually increased 5%. So the crowd didn't even get it down to my normal lowest price. Okay, no one complained. So it actually increased my floor price, and I 3.5x'd my pre-sale. Okay, so I would say connecting with us, priceslide.com. You can go right there and write with us. We would love to come alongside you to create the best pre-sale that you've ever had. That's as simple as it is.
Wow, fantastic. Andrew, it's been a pleasure speaking with you at the podcast.
Oh, it's been fantastic. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So what is your website again?
Yep, priceslide.com.
And if people want to find your LinkedIn or your social media, how can they find you?
Just so I'm one of the only Andrew Spandings in the entire world. So all you got to do is search Andrew Spanding, Spanding.
Which social media?
I'm the only one.
Which social media preferable you hang around? Which ones?
What's that?
In which social media you hang around mainly?
LinkedIn.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. What an interesting conversation we have.
Fantastic.
And we managed to open a new perspective for entrepreneurs so that maybe they didn't know that they can unlock the value in their own business by creating events. So thank you so much. For all of you following the podcast, see you in our episode of Entrepreneurs and Leaders, where brave entrepreneurs like Andrew, they're creating businesses that change the world. Like for now.
Follow us for more on charismatic speaking, leadership, exponential business growth, branding, marketing, strategies designed to help you monetize your knowledge, find true happiness, and manifest your goals and dreams.